One of the most common questions I get asked is about my writing process. Now, I have actually written quite a few books, over 40 or about 42 to count, I think. And the process has evolved over the years, but there are some things that always remain the same. I actually have a really simple process, but I thought it would be really fun to document it in video form and show you exactly how a book gets produced. And so I'm going to do that with my next release, which is called Highlander Seduced, and I'm going to show you exactly step by step what I do. So it all starts with the cover. I always start with the title and a cover first. It kind of, I don't know, inspires me to write the book if I know what the cover is going to look like. And this one is a bit, actually it had a different title, different cover and a different series name originally. And then I decided it just wasn't vibing with me, so I've changed everything up. So it's now called Rebellious Highland Hearts, this new series. Highlander Seduced is the name. Cover is one of my classic covers because it's kind of like a follow-up to two other series that I've done before in the same world about the Mackays. So I have the Mackay tartan, and for this particular series I'm going with a coastal Scottish scene at the top for each book. In previous ones I've gone for either landscapes, but in this one it's a little bit different. I'm going for the lovely kind of atmospheric coastal shot, and I do these covers myself. I use Photoshop elements. I've been designing my own covers for years and I have improved over the years, and I'm really happy with this one. It is very Scottish. It tells you exactly kind of what the vibe is for the story. It's kind of got the epic kind of historical feel to it, and find the little thistle, which I will use on all four of the covers in this series. So once I get the cover sorted and the title of the book sorted, I'm all ready to dive into the planning stage. And if you're expecting a very complicated planning outline from me, you're going to be disappointed, because I like to keep things simple. I have a short attention span at the best of times, and so my planning process is pretty loose and free. And so let's dive in and see what it's like. Okay, so my planning process is very analog, old school. I use a notepad. I don't use the computer for this. I write my book on a computer using Microsoft Word, but I like to write everything down in a notepad. So I buy one of these. It's got plenty of pages, and I will probably do the whole series in this particular notepad. You can see I've written the title down for the series. It's called Rebellious Highland Hearts, and you can see if I turn the page here, I have already started doing some planning. And usually I start, first of all, by doing a timeline. And this is a historical timeline that is letting me know exactly what's happening in the period in which I want to be writing this book. And that's important because I always like to put a little bit of historical fact into my stories. And I want to kind of weave it in. I write historical romance, but at the same time, I want all the historical kind of setting around it to be authentic. Back to planning, and I discovered something really exciting when I was researching about the 15th century in Scotland. So this series is going to be set around the reign of James II. He had the nickname of Fiery Face because he had a very conspicuous red birthmark on his cheek, and also apparently had a fiery temper as well. Now, this guy was actually really interesting because in his reign, there were two quite gruesome assassinations, and one of them, which was called the was actually the inspiration that George R.R. Martin used for the Red Wedding in Game of Thrones. So I'm sure all of you remember what the Red Wedding was. It was a massacre, and the Black Dinner in real history was pretty gruesome as well. The king was only 10 years old at the time, and he invited the Douglases, the young Earl of Douglas and his brother, 16 and 12 years old. They were pretty young. They invited them to dinner, and during the dinner, someone brought a black ox head to the table, which is a symbol of death, and then the boys were dragged away. The king wasn't very happy about this, by the way. He tried to stop it, but he couldn't. The boys were dragged away. There was a mock trial, and then they were beheaded. Pretty gruesome and awful. And this threw the Scottish ruling family into quite a bit of conflict with the Douglases, as you can imagine. And then just over 10 years later, the king, who was in his early 20s, actually stabbed the then Earl of Douglas to death and threw him out a window. So you can see that fact is often just as exciting and just as gruesome as fiction. So it's Sunday evening here, and I'm doing one last bit of planning before tomorrow I'll be diving into chapter 1. The novel is called Highlander Seduced, and if you've been following along, you know a little bit about it already. But this time I'm going to be thinking a little bit about how the characters are all going to play out. So my main characters are Ivor Mackay and Bonnie Fraser. So we have a laird and a scullery maid. Now for Ivor, I'm channeling this guy, Geralt of Rivia. So he really does look like him. He's about 35, he's a bit grumpy, and he's got, white blonde hair, and he's very gorgeous. So yeah, this is definitely, I'm channeling this guy. Yes, definitely. Now for the heroine, I am channeling this look. She is 25, she's got red hair. This is more or less how I imagine her. So part of this planning stage is thinking about the tropes and the themes and the general kind of vibe that I want for the story. So with each book that I write, I like to use a number of different tropes to kind of mix and match and twist and make the story sort of different and interesting. So in this one, I'm using rags to riches and a Cinderella trope, which is not something I've done before. Should be fun. I'm also doing social class, healing wounded hearts, and I'm also doing one of my personal favourites, which is one night stand, which is not that common in historical romance, but it's great fun. When it's done well, it's great fun. As you can see, there are a lot of good things to look forward to with the story, and so I hope that you will join me tomorrow when I embark on chapter 1. Good morning, I am here in my office. It is Monday morning, and I'm ready to start work on my new book. Okay, here is where the magic happens. My workstation, I have a standing desk. I'll be standing up for a little bit and then I'll sit down. I have my hot drink ready to go, and I have the title ready to go as well. It's Highlander Seduced, and I'm going to be listening to some music, so I have my headset here. Let's get started. To start off, I thought I would share the first couple of lines from the book. There were 2 questions Ivor Mackay didn't like answering. The first was why at the age of 5 and 30 he'd never married, and the second was when was he planning on taking a wife. But this evening he hadn't been able to avoid either, especially since it was the king who was asking. I would waste my time, I would lose my mind. They say she's gone too far this time. Don't blame me, love made me crazy. If it doesn't, you ain't doing it right. Lord, save me, my drug is my baby. I'll be using for the rest of my life. Don't blame me, love made me crazy. If it doesn't, you ain't doing it right. Oh, Lord, save me, my drug is my baby. I'll be using for the rest of my life. My name is whatever you decide, and I'm just gonna call you mine. I'm insane, but I'm you. Okay, so now we come to the end of the writing week. I've now reached 15,000 words. That's chapter 7 of the book. Highlander Seduced is going really well. I am so enjoying the rags to riches trope. I'm also really loving the twist on Cinderella set in the Scottish Highlands. I'll be taking the weekend off, and I am so looking forward to pressing on with the story next week. I just finished the first steamy scene of my novel, Highlander Seduced. It takes place in the moonlight, up against a wall, and it is really spicy. So you guys are really welcome. Hey, so time for another writing update. So it is Monday afternoon here, and I have not been writing this afternoon. I tend to only write in the mornings, and I just wanted to let you guys know that I am halfway through the current book, which is Highlander Seduced. And how is it going? It is going great. It is one of those stories which really catches fire. I'm just really steering it because the characters are in the driving seat. They are letting me know what needs to happen, and every morning I sit down to write, excited to know what's going to happen next. So it's an incredible story. It's strange because I love every book that I write, but not every one catches fire like this one is. So that's a really good sign, and especially for you guys as well. So I'm going to push on and head towards the next stage of the book. I finished writing the book. Please excuse the voice because I'm getting over a cold. It is a heart-wrenching, at the same time really heart-warming story, and I had such fun, and it is now with my editor. So I wait with bated breath to hear back.
Too much labor, all day, every day, therapist, mother, maid, nymph, then a virgin, nurse, then a servant, just an appendage, lift to attend him, so then he never lifts a finger. 24.
I've been lost deep in the land of editing of late. Work continues on Highlander Seduced, and I spent the last 2 weeks doing all the structural edit changes that my editor gave me, worked my way through all the list of notes, and emerged blinking on the other side. So the book is now back with the editor, and I'll be getting the book back tomorrow morning, and I'll be diving in for the second round of edits. This one should be less grueling, and it's exciting because the book really is now taking shape. The editing and proofreading of Highlander Seduced is all done. Advance review copies have gone out, and so I am now just waiting to hear what people think of the book. And although I've put out over 40 books now, it's always a little bit of a nervous wait. It is launch day for Highlander Seduced. Let's party! And finally, he's pouring us a glass. Fill it up a little bit more, please. Cheers, everyone. Happy launch day.